Hello.
Okay, good to see you. It's 4:32 and we'll start. I think people will come in as they can. 4:32. Okay. So is Anna here yet? No. Okay, Anna has to leave at 4:50. So I thought I would give her the courtesy of speaking first, but can we start with reviewing the notes from our last workshop? Okay. All right, so at our last workshop, Becca spoke about Bristol's vertical baler. Then Mark said he would discuss the legality of our talks with other transfer stations. And we assume that it's safe to talk with other members of the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste Group and wait for the confirmation from the select board. So Mark, do you have a comment or not?
You are good to go as long as we are talking to Casella or to other member communities in the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District.
Okay, so we're
good
on.
to go.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Anna sent an email with an update of her Trex program with the school. I assume she'll be on in a few minutes, so we'll just make a note of that. And Jeff, last time you spoke, you said that the markets are good for cardboard. You visited the transfer station at Campton Thornton. They love recycling cardboard. And you mentioned a shipping container was used to store bales. 48 bales to fill a semi, sells at $85 per ton, and there may be grants to help with the cost of the baler. And you spoke to Bonnie of NRRA.
Well, I didn't actually speak to Bonnie. I just spoke to Steve at Camden
Okay.
Thornton.
Okay, so we might speak to Bonnie if we need help, if it's relevant, Mark. We got that, right. Any updates on that? Jeff?
I do not have any updates.
Okay, okay. So at the bottom of my notes from the last meeting, I wrote our obstacles. Our obstacles, as I have seen it all along, are space and compliance. We have only talked about the lack of space. And I have 4 questions. Number 1, in the future, can we share with Campton Thornton? Number 2, can we have a monthly glass drive? 3, can Casella pick up here? And 4, can we have a cardboard dumpster at town center? Those were the questions from our discussion. They can be discussed at any time. Any comments on them so far?
Well, is your intent to go down through those questions and answer them, or are they going to be homework things that people are going to look into?
Yeah.
Or how do you want to structure that?
Well, they are comments that I picked up, I gleaned from our previous conversations. They should be answered, dealt with somehow. So either thoughts to ponder or action items.
So I have a comment. I think it would be helpful to understand kind of maybe an order of things, right?
Yes.
So one and things could happen simultaneously. So one is what equipment would we need if we want to be involved with glass and or involved with cardboard? What space might we need if we wanted to be involved with cardboard and glass? And then the last piece is there a point in time when maybe we have a conversation with the biggest generators of glass and cardboard, i.e. the mountain, the golf club, and town center.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess one question that kind of comes out of that, Mark, is from your experience, do you feel like those entities might be willing to play ball in some form or fashion? For example, you know, would the mountain be willing to gather their glass at the mountain, or would they be willing to gather the cardboard from their food, or, you know, would they be willing to kind of help us out with town square? Or do you think that becomes a battle before we ask them?
I think you have to have a system. You can't go to them and just say, we want to recycle, or we want to recycle glass and cardboard. You can't just make that statement and ask them if they want to participate, because sure they do, right?
Yeah.
You got to present, here's how we're going to do it. Here's what we're going to require of the businesses or the property owners or whatever, and present them with a total plan. And
Perfect.
then
Okay.
ask them if, can you support this plan, or where can you not do these things that we have under the business requirements for this program?
Okay.
So
Perfect. So that kind of sounds like what we should do is just, in general, sketch out what's involved with this. And then at that point, we can hand it to that operations committee, and they can kind of hone it a little bit around, you know, the detail components of that. But at least we can give them a sketch of how it might work from how we see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, let's interrupt for a minute since Anna has to leave soon. Unmute. Unmute yourself.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yes, I sent an email to everyone just because I can only be here for a short time. Just keeping you up to date on what we're doing with the school, which is the Bags to Bench Trex Challenge, where if we collect and we're tracking it and we've registered with Trex. So if we get 500 pounds of the plastic waste, Trex will donate a bench to the elementary school. So it's kind of like a way to get kids involved. And I'm working with a couple other parents, one teacher. Mike Capella is involved as well. So he's aware of it. And we also are going to order some reusable bags for Jugtown to carry. And the people, you know, residents, visitors, whoever can buy online as well.
Do you have a time frame for gathering 500 pounds?
It's probably it's going to be a while. I think we've collected maybe 20 pounds so far.
I mean, does Trex tell you you have to do it in a year?
No, I think it's within 6 months, maybe.
Okay.
But we're hoping to continue this, and even, I think it's starting out slow, but ramp it up as soon as people really know about it.
Perfect.
You know, throughout the summer and into the fall. So
Excellent.
the plan,
How are you going to do it, Anna, over the summer?
So I'm not really going to be here over the summer, but some of the other people involved in this initiative are going to be here all summer. And so they will be the ones responsible for weighing the plastic and also bringing it to Market Basket or Hannaford's.
How are you going to just encourage the kids to do it on their own, or?
Well, we've sent something out to the school community and on a couple different like Waterville Valley Facebook pages, but we are going to get the kids involved hopefully next week and try to do like a competition between the classes, you know, get your parents to bring in their plastic, maybe get them to bring in some of their own. I don't really know. We're still kind of figuring that out, but that's our plan now.
Have you considered talking to Brooke about potentially getting the summer camp programs involved and maybe getting competition between the different camps?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea.
I think you should reach out to her, and because I think a lot of the kids from the school are going to be involved in that. And I think
Yeah, they are.
in your momentum, because you're just going to be getting this going and then
Yeah.
school's going to end.
Right.
And I think if they don't have something to keep them going, you're going to have to start from ground zero in September.
Yep. Yep,
Plus
that's a great idea.
You're going to lose all of those months of people generating this waste that potentially is just going to get thrown away in the regular trash.
Hmm.
So I'd reach out to Brooke and try
Okay, Brooke.
to do
Okay.
that. 'Cause you may even be able to bring recycling or energy efficiency. You may even be able to bring the race center in, and you've got the little kids that are going to be there for the summer.
Yep.
And you can tie in their programs in the fall as well.
Okay,
And
that's
you have
great.
us.
I
You
will
have
reach
us
out to her.
definitely.
And another suggestion is maybe you want to do like posters that you could put on the dumpsters. And if you wanted help with that, maybe you could reach out to like Sarah Hydeness, who's at the academy,
Okay.
who's the art teacher who would be, she loves recycling. She'd probably
Okay.
love to help the kids
So-
do a project.
So when people are bringing their trash, bag a day or whatever it is,
Stares them right in the
they
face.
will see that and they'll be like, oh, next time I'll separate that out. Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we'll be donating every other day.
Great.
We already have, so.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I mean, it's crazy how much, yeah,
Amazing how much plastic is generated.
yes, it is. So those are great suggestions. I will definitely follow up on those.
And where are you storing it? You're bringing it to Market Basket?
Yes, which I had a question for you, Irit. So when you walk into Market Basket on if you're looking at Market Basket, the left entrance, there's like a bin right there. It doesn't say anything about Trex or what you can and can't put in there.
I don't use the left entrance. I use the right entrance.
You do, okay. And
But you
there
use
is something.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Really?
An official Trex bin, which is
Okay.
opaque, translucent. And
Okay.
they put up one of our posters, thanks to Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
They put up one of our Trex colorful posters.
Okay. So I will go in that entrance. I have
They are-
two big bags to bring tonight. So
They are very pro recycling.
And
Okay.
How do you track that?
I don't know.
track
How do you track that it's coming from Waterville Valley so that we get credit towards the 500?
Yeah, so another person, Rob Darnell, I don't know if you guys know him, but he's another parent at the school, and he did this in his community in Massachusetts, and they collected 2,500 pounds. And he's the one who registered on the Trex Challenge website, but really we just have a spreadsheet, and he has like a scale that he used in his previous town, and we're just weighing it, and we just keep a spreadsheet. So it's, I don't know.
When I talked to them, they weren't that hardcore. They weren't like, show me proof, bring it to a certified scale. They were pretty laid back.
Yeah, it seems like it's the honor system.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be encouraging people to do this individually. They should be bringing it to the school to let the school then bring it down.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what we're doing.
I think that's important at the end of town meeting tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a warrant article that allows people to bring up other information, right?
Mhm.
That wasn't covered in a warrant article prior.
Okay.
You guys should make an announcement, have something written down, take 1 or 2 minutes, because everybody's going to be tired. It's going to be the end of the meeting. But it's a good idea to just let people know, or even if you had this email that you sent to us, copies of this flyer,
Mm-hmm.
and show it to people And I'll have it on my computer so that I could put it up if you want.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
show it to them, hand it out, and tell people you're going to have potentially 100 people sitting there
Okay.
that you can communicate with, and it's just a really good idea. And explain to them how to do it over the summer.
Okay. I don't know that I am going to be able to be there because my husband won't be here. But maybe over email, we can figure out someone who can do that.
So whoever has the info and
Mhm.
and again, you got to keep it short because they're going to be pretty
Yeah.
tired by the time we get to it at the end of the meeting tomorrow. But I
Right.
think it would be worthwhile to throw it out there. And
Yes.
just let people.
Yeah,
know.
it's straightforward. So I think it could be very, very quick. It's basically
Yeah.
bring your plastic to these 2 drop points, these collection bins,
Exactly.
and let's try to be a little more conscious of what we are consuming. So,
Sure. Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, Anna.
okay, I gotta run.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Anna.
Bye.
Yeah. And I'll be adding another line for the school project in the wigwag with the update.
Yeah.
So I don't get accused of saying there's only Trex Recycling at Market Basket in Hannaford. It's all over the place.
Well, and I think it's important because the school needs to get the credit for what
Yes.
those people are bringing down there. And it should be easier for people
Yeah.
to do it
Yep.
if they know where to throw it. So whoever does that update
Yes.
should know where these bins are going to be
Right.
here in town.
Right.
So that people can throw
So-
them away properly.
Right. So we know there's one right outside the school entrance. And where's the second one?
I don't know.
Post office, outside the post office.
Outside the post office. Okay.
Okay.
So that's good. All right.
That's great. There's 2 good places, easy to get to. And
Yeah.
2 good places. Okay. So that said, were there any other questions about the comments? A glass drive, Casella picking up here? Anything else about that? Oh, I wanted to make one more comment, Mark, before you speak.
Mhm.
The other benefit of doing this little Trex drive is that we need to bring more awareness about recycling to everyone. Some of us are jaded. Some of us don't believe that there is recycling going on. So by physically bringing the bags to it, it makes people more conscious
Mhm.
of the act of recycling, keeping it out of landfills, keeping it out of our oceans. It just goes on and on and on. It's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
That's fine, Irid. I just, so we had an in-depth discussion about recycling this morning. Irid and Wendy and Jim Mayhew and I.
Great.
And we are at the point right now, and I talked in depth with Irid about this, but we really need to, for the rest of this year and into probably the first half of next year, we need to just continue the planning for and information gathering that you guys have started to do. Things like the big belly information, the composting information, those sorts of things that you guys have started gathering information about. Sit down with folks from Casella or folks from the other towns like Steve, and gather information together about what opportunities are out there, okay? Because realistically, and especially for the rest of this year, okay, maybe going back to my Army days, a target of opportunity will come up at the beginning of next year before town meeting in March of 22.
Mhm.
There may be some smaller steps that we can take. But the bottom line is going to be, until we have the design and know the general area of the wastewater treatment plant, right? And its general location and the requirements of that project, we don't want to make any major monetary investments or change the operation, the way that we're doing the operation, to a very great degree until those things are settled. Okay? Once we know what the lay of the land is going to be, and we have the information that you guys are gathering, we're going to be able to marry those two things together. Okay? We're going to be able to say, here's the footprint of a baler, here's the rough cost of it, here's how many people it takes to operate it X number of hours a week or whatever we want to do. Here's where we need to store the, here's how we need to store the stuff so it doesn't get contaminated. Here's what a load of material looks like. Here's how much we have to bale before somebody will come pick it up, and all of those details, right?
Right.
And once we know where we could potentially put it, because we know where the treatment plant's going to be, and once we know what the layout would need to be, then we can propose something to town meeting. Okay? And I think that it's realistic, okay, when you're looking at the calendar and the way the funding has to be done based on every March, right, with town meeting, that I think by the middle of next year, the treatment plant will probably be pretty settled. We'll be able to put together proposals and systems, right, and cost them out and propose something realistically for March of 2023. All right. As far as an actual, here's how we get recycling going again in town. All right.
Mhm.
Now, I think that's actually good, because I think it's going to let the Bethlehem landfill go through the legal issues that they're going through right now. So we'll have more information about potentially the longevity of Bethlehem. May of 2023 is when our contract under the Pemmy Baker Solid Waste District is over. So we'll be able to, make a decision as to whether or not we're going to renew it or go in a different direction, right? Because, just making this up, if Wheelabrator is still available in 2023, maybe we don't want to do any source separation operation, because it's very expensive to set up.
Yeah.
And it's very expensive to run. And if we can take all of our trash and get 100% recycling by taking it to Wheelabrator and turning it into energy, that may be the best financial option.
Right.
Right. So, but I don't want to just count on that. Okay. I think the work that you guys are doing over the next year or so of gathering all of this information together, I think it's a useful process, because we're going to be able to do comparisons with all of these different options, and we're going to be able to say what the best way to do recycling is going to be. But I think these little things like Trex is wonderful, or whatever small things we can do without impacting or requiring a huge upfront investment by the town, is going to be the kinds of things that we want to do. I mean, we used to have a big trailer that we would fill up with aluminum cans, right? And that's how we recycled, quote unquote, recycled aluminum around town. I don't know if we could set something up to potentially do something similar for next year. We should look into that,
Yeah,
okay? But remember what Steve said, that his experience down in Campton Thornton is, if you are not controlling access to wherever people are throwing stuff away, and if you're not physically taking that material from someone and then as staff putting it in the right place to recycle it, the contamination requirements now are so stringent with recycling that just leaving it open to the public like we used to do isn't really working anywhere. And I mean, remember, he said every piece of whatever it is, cardboard, glass, plastic, every piece that is recycled in Campton is handled by his staff.
Yeah.
There is no free drop off. You actually go up and you put, because I live in Campton and we recycle there.
yeah,
You physically, right, you put your stuff in the containers and the staff looks at it to make sure that it meets the requirements, and then they toss it, right? So we can't set up to do that right now here because we don't have space to do it.
Right.
We may never have space, or we may have all the space we need. We got to answer that question about the treatment plant first.
Right.
So,
yeah. I think that gives better clarity, Mark, the best clarity you've given. So I really, really appreciate that. I think we have pluses and minuses in Waterville, right? So one negative is we don't have land. Number two is, I mean, what's the square footage of Waterville in terms of,
it's only 550 privately owned acres.
yeah. So everyone's kind of in proximity to kind of
Right.
what's going on.
Right.
And so, I think that's it's kind of a big plus. And then maybe there's at some point down the road, there's a walk before crawl before you walk, in the sense that it may be most efficient to handle it the way Steve handles it. It may be less efficient to pay Casella to pick up glass. But maybe for us, that's the best way to do it now. Maybe it's the best way to do it forever, right? Because everybody's totally different.
Right.
And maybe there's also the ability at some point to say, because we are very close, to have a setup where we say, hey, recycling is not the same hours as the transfer station. Recycling is 2 days a week, and if you want to recycle, these are the days you show up with your stuff. But we haven't tested that people would actually follow that. They may just throw all their trash away and not pay attention. But we can find that out over the next year or two.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing you have to think about when you're designing a system, like you just said, 2 days a week or whatever it is, all right? You have to structure for the transient population,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
You can't have a system that only works for the residents of the town, because you're not going to get enough volume from the people who live here full time. If you don't design a system that is probably caters to the transients first, and then you tack on the full-time residents, it's not going to be successful, okay? And if you don't have 100% buy-in from the businesses, okay, you can put all the flyers and stuff you want around town, and however you want to publicize it, it's still not going to have an impact.
Yeah.
In a meaningful way.
Right.
Okay, because if you take the numbers that Steve, and I told this to Irit this morning, if you look at the numbers that Steve gave us, what was it, 323 tons out of 1,900 tons total, or something like that. If you do the math of that, that's only 14% recycling. And think about the system that he's running to only recycle 13 to 15%. I mean, we
Yeah.
got that in the single stream recycling. I mean, the high that we ever had was 20%. So I don't, that's the other part of this calculus that we've got to do when we're looking at it,
Mhm.
because there is a feel good, do the right thing piece to this, to the recycling, but it does have to make some financial sense.
Sure.
We can't, given all of the other price increases that we're going to be seeing in everything else that we do,
Mhm.
we have to balance that, okay? And we can't just design a system that's going to double our solid waste costs because we want to recycle. I don't think that's reasonable, or we should be doing that, right?
No, but I think the key is, I think the likelihood with our budget to do single source is probably not a really good strategy for us, right?
No, right, absolutely not.
Because especially because you're picking all these dumpsters up, and it's, it just doesn't make sense. We're probably better off creating a way that people can separate a few of the valuable items that exist. And where I live, which is a much more wealthy town with, a lot of full-time residents. So we have the single source, which we probably pay an arm and a leg for, and then the rest goes to the incinerator in Andover,
Mhm.
right? So maybe we end up with everything going to the incinerator in Concord, except for a couple of those value-added things that we can feel good about and
Sure.
and do something with. We'll have to find
Yeah.
out.
Right, but again, if doing that feel-good thing costs us 30% more than if we simply took it to the incinerator in Concord, I'd rather look at it as we're recycling 100% by taking everything to the incinerator and turning it into energy. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
don't want to do this. If it's meaningful, it reduces our costs at the incinerator by taking less tonnage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we make some money
Right.
on this end.
Mhm.
I'm all for it.
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
But I can't feel good about having to add staff and everything else, and having all of these costs that the town's going to be paying down the road just because we want to say that we recycle.
No, our aim is, as Steve says, cost avoidance. Right
Yeah,
now, we're paying
Right.
way too much to go into the landfill. Never mind that we feel lousy about it, but we're paying way too much. So if we can take out weight, we can take out food waste, that will be awesome because that weighs the most. And it creates all this carbon dioxide. So we need the opposite. That's why Wendy is pushing composting. So we'll look at that at another time, but we're looking at cost avoidance and we're trying to be cost effective.
Hey, Steve, Mark, one other question. Would it ever make sense at some point, not because we're recycling, but see if we could get people to put the cardboard in some of the dumpsters, let's say at the transfer station, and the rest of the trash in the other? Just from the standpoint of to get an idea of the volume issues that are being generated.
yeah, we have tried that in the past. We set aside 2 of the dumpsters specifically for cardboard, and people didn't use them.
Okay.
We had signs directing them there. We We said, you know, cardboard only, big white letters on the side of the dumpsters. We put signs on the regular dumpsters that said, please do not put
Yeah.
cardboard in here. Please
Yeah.
turn around and put it in the dumpster behind you.
Yeah.
I mean, and they won't. And
That's
again,
why, yeah, that's,
to that, it's got to be manned. You've got to have staff do the sorting, because the people who did,
yeah,
but it even is beyond
not enough.
education, because they will not do the right thing, and that's the majority of people.
Yep.
There are some people that will follow whatever instructions you put up to a T, and they will help you out in every way. But I gotta say, that's probably 10% of the people.
Well, maybe also because they're transient. So when they're on
Well,
vacation, they
that's
don't
right.
feel like they follow the rules anymore.
And it's exacerbated, absolutely right, Jeff, because it's exacerbated by the fact that 95% of our population is transient.
Yeah.
And they're on vacation, okay? They have to recycle when they're at home, but when they're here, they're on vacation.
That's right.
Right?
What I said,
And that is
pretty pathetic.
the fact of what we have to deal with. So that's why I'm saying whatever process you come up with, it's got to take that as the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you got to figure out a way to help them do it. And the businesses, and Sean can, I hope, jump in if he's listening. We've got to have a process that the businesses don't have to spend an arm and a leg on helping us do, right? Because they're our link to the transient population. And if we increase their costs because housekeeping has to go through 4 more steps or whatever it is,
Yeah.
that's not going to work either. There's no incentive for them to have to invest that kind of money. It's got to be a break-even proposition for them as well, right?
Mhm.
That is-
Sean, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm kind of listening to all this and, you know, trying to get to the operations and, you know, from a big, big transient population place, you know, and I've got to think of where to put the stuff and how to handle it. Cause you got to think of like a hotel room.
Right.
I can put 2 small bins in a hotel room and count on some fraction. It's not 100%. I can count on some fraction of guests actually taking the time to stick their, you know, plastic water bottle in one bin and put their trash, you know, trash in another.
Right.
And then,
Right.
and where do I put it? You know, my housekeeper, I can have a big rolling cart that we empty the rooms in that has a couple of different compartments in it. So we can kind of pre-sort some of that stuff. And then we have one dumpster currently. So, you know, we're talking about cardboard, glass, plastic, aluminum cans. Obviously, I don't have room for 5 dumpsters. So there has to be some way that I can accumulate 5 different materials. If we don't do single stream, I have to actually be able to accumulate 5 different objects. And then I don't mind bringing them somewhere, but that is something that we need to work out. Like, I don't think that, you know, Mike is going to come by and 5 times. I don't think that's practical. He's not going to come pick up 5 different things from me. So for me, I need to say, all right, now I have these 5 bins. Let's say I've put aside, I have my dumpster for trash that I just can't manage to sort or whatever. And then I have 5 bins worth of stuff. I need to put it in the back of a pickup truck and bring it someplace, bring it to the transfer station. And then once we've made operationally, once we've figured out how to sort it over there, my guy or me, needs to take these bins out of the pickup truck and, put them into
Mhm.
whatever means we've come up with to sort it over there.
Right.
So there's a lot of logistics to that for me and Golden Eagle and Black Bear and, Town Square, anybody that's running a large, high transient volume operation. There's significant logistics. I can't bring my plastic bags to the school, as I use them.
And you've incurred a cost before the town has even incurred a cost, right? Because
Yeah.
you've gone through your sorting so that we could do more sorting here, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna get 100% compliance. So we're gonna have to be kind of like the quality control, if you will, of the sorting that's going on with you. But now there's another level of investment that's gonna have to occur, right? Because those 5 bins that you've invested in and that the Black Bear has done and all of the commercials, we're gonna have a mirror of that here.
Yeah.
And so, and then how do you control access to that so that it doesn't get inadvertently contaminated because someone threw 4 bags of garbage into it?
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think all that makes sense. I have a quick question, Sean. Maybe you can mention this.
2 things.
When if you looked at this from an economic standpoint and you said, like, the elasticity of your pricing, right? So if you raised your price $1 for a hotel room as a sustainability surcharge, how many rooms do you think you'd lose?
None. No, I can go up a buck.
Or if the mountain said, you know what, we're in the national forest, we're going to charge $1 extra for a lift ticket, and this is money that's going towards sustainability.
Mhm.
How many people are going to go to Loon?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that, but it's just a pretty basic economics question. Like, does pricing matter that much in that environment?
Well, it does. So one of the things that hotels deal with that I don't think a lot of people think about, let's say I charge $150 for a room. We're one of the only industries in New Hampshire that is having to pass on a sales tax, us and restaurants. So I'm already tacking 9% on for that. Here in Waterville Valley, we are also all participating in the Freedom Pass program. We're all participating in the WVRA. That's another 15% that I'm tacking on to that bill.
You pay for the Freedom Pass? What's the Freedom Pass?
We collect 15% and we pass that on to the Waterville Valley Resort Association. And that takes care of the shuttle bus that usually runs around town. Hopefully that starts up again next month. When they get guests that stay in a hotel can get a free round of golf. They can go to the athletic club. They can get bike or boat rentals for an hour or 2, I think it is, next door. They get $5 off at Legends Arcade now that, since I opened that up. They get discounts at various restaurants. So all those benefits that a visiting guest gets actually cost them 15% of their hotel stay.
And then that money is used in 2 ways. It reimburses the venues for providing a lower cost, like our boats. Instead, it's a different rate than if you rent it on your own, right? So we get paid some of that money that's collected as a venue, the golf course and the athletic center and the boats and whatever, bike rentals.
Mhm.
And then the balance of the money, and the majority of the money actually, is used for common marketing efforts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, visit Waterville Valley, the website, Facebook marketing campaigns that are done by Matt Hester and his group, those guys. So it's kind of a long answer to your question, but it's not going to be that hard to throw another $1 onto our room rentals I would almost not even tell anybody why.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a few years back, I switched over to Verizon from Comcast in my community because I got sick of being nickeled and dimed on my bill for 100 different things, you know, FCC access charges, state sales tax, federal communication tax, this program, that program. I would rather have just paid $100 and not really known where all that stuff was going to. So yeah, going up $1's not a problem.
The other piece to this is the legality of the town doing that. Okay. We do not have the capability in New Hampshire to levy taxes as a locality without some major legal finagling. Okay. So the property tax is the way towns come up with their money here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So if you're going to propose a different way of like adding the dollar on as a sustainability surcharge, it isn't like some states where a locality has the legal authority to do that. We would have to find a way within state statute to do that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say make it a government mandate, but I think, it's a small enough group of people that if they think that it's a value add, to have the community viewed that way. Research would have to be done.
Yeah.
That might make people feel better about Waterville in some way or fashion and defer costs, but we don't know the answer to that because we haven't done any testing.
And Sean, just a couple of notes. We weren't talking about 5 extra bins. We're trying to focus on 2, cardboard and glass. I think any more than that, then we're not keeping it simple. That's way too complicated to do 5. So
yeah, ultimately, I mean, we're early in this process. Like this guy right here, aluminum cans.
yeah,
In Massachusetts, we bag these things up and go get nickels for them. We don't have to do that here. But I got this little compactor downstairs that I'm going to start to use, I think, and crush these things into aluminum cubes.
oh, good.
And then there's this one.
Yes.
These guys fill up a ton of space. I don't think this is part of the Trex program. So,
No.
My thoughts for, just again, this is a logistical and operational thing, but my thoughts for, this kind of plastic, recyclable plastic, I'd love to see, I would think you'd be able to put through a shredder and turn it into chips and just have like big containers or bales or whatever full of chips, or maybe you crush them and bale them. I don't know. So there's 2 objects. The cardboard, that's an easy one. Baling up the cardboard makes a ton of sense. Glass makes a ton of sense. And again, I would wonder if we can just break the glass and put it into bins broken. It takes up a ton less space that way.
Right.
And then the 5th container for me is compostable waste. If we're going to actually do this compost thing, I got to have my chef put his non-meat prep scraps in one bucket. And I don't think it's not real practical to do post-consumer food composting, because you got to figure if they ordered like steak tips and mashed potatoes and broccoli, you've got meat juices and stuff like that on that plate, so you can't really scrape the potatoes into a composting bin because it's got meat product in it, which is just going to give you maggots and flies and other meat-borne diseases. You can't just put the meat out there in a pile and let it decompose. So that's my 5th bin. The composting will probably mostly come from my kitchen. When he chops up a head of broccoli, the stumps, whatever he's not going to serve, the outer leaves from romaine lettuce, the salad that he doesn't sell by the end of the night, that all goes in some buckets and that goes in a container.
Great. Nice to hear that you're thinking about it in that direction. So thank you.
And I wish we had pigs, by the way, and perhaps part of this program could be pigs. If we even had 2 pigs in this community, then the restaurants could all bucket up that meat and frankly, everything else and just bring it over to the pigs.
Well, I had years ago when my daughter Allie was at a GMBS camp. And so we dropped her off and we walked around and we're in Vermont and bought some tie-dye t-shirts. And all of a sudden I got stuck talking to a woman for like an hour and a half about red worms.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, worm
my wife
composting.
was like, whatever happens, you're not having those in the basement. But I'm like, it was pretty cool.
I've done it. I've done vermiculture.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I don't know what the scoop is with bottles. I think it's a weight issue, but we'll do some research on bottles as well.
Right. Didn't Steve say he crushes them with a backhoe or something?
No, the glass he does.
The
To get
glass.
the glass really small. But I think one of the issues with bottles now is they don't weigh that much anymore. They've made them very, very thin. So they take up a whole lot of room for not a lot of weight. So you're not saving a lot from going to a landfill standpoint. You know, you're not losing a lot on anything on the cost side, but God, they're horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
tons of space.
Well, and that's part of the other part of the equation is, you know, Jim, when we were talking this morning, Jim Mayhew pointed out to us that let's say that we did 100 tons of recycling in a year, okay? Out of the 800-ton waste stream. Again, that's only about, what, 12% or so, right? We would be looking at, when you put 100 tons of material into our trash truck, that is, what do you say, you're at 16 full truckloads, okay?
Hmm.
So really, you're only saving 32 hours of, or let's be really, just really go out there, right? Let's say that it's 10 hours a ton by the time you collect it and drive it up there and everything, right? You're only saving 160 hours, 160 man hours, right?
Did you
Which
say
is
16 trucks?
for
Did you say
16
16
trucks.
truckloads? He
Yeah,
says
I'm saying
every
10 hours. I'm saying 10 hours by the time you,
3 hours a trip. He said
I
3
know,
hours.
but I'm saying it's not just driving it up there.
Yeah, you gotta do other things too.
Yeah.
And, okay, so let's say that you eliminated 16 full truckloads.
Mhm.
That's 160 man hours, okay? At 10 hours per truck.
2 men.
Okay? That is, for 2 people, that is 2 weeks of time, okay?
Mhm.
So you're talking about saving 2 weeks out of 50 in a year, okay? So that's what, 4%, right? Is math right? Yeah, 4% of our manpower costs, all right? But like Jim said, unfortunately, that would not come in those full truckloads,
Right.
right? It comes a little bit in this truckload, a little bit in this truckload, a little bit in this truckload. So you can't, we're not really saving trips,
Oh, yeah.
okay?
Mm.
Over the course of the year, eliminating that waste saves it, but it isn't as measurable as saying it's going to save us X amount of hours per year.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a very complicated
Yeah.
calculus when you're looking at it. All right. And we have to take that into account when we're evaluating what the real savings is down the road.
Well, and that's why you need to recycle components that have economic value,
Mhm.
right?
Right,
So you gotta save on labor, you gotta save on landfill cost, and you gotta take some cash in the process.
Right,
And,
right,
it's complicated,
right.
right.
right?
And
And
I
it's all volume driven.
Right, and I think the manpower savings is gonna be the most difficult thing to calculate because it's spread out over every load that goes to Bethlehem. It's not in a single truckload of material that you are then taking out of the waste stream.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, or not even out of the waste stream, out of the process of getting stuff up to Bethlehem.
We'll have to
Yeah.
continue to re-examine the numbers, but we're not operations too. So
No, I know, but when you're coming up with options, that needs to be part of what
Yeah.
you're thinking about,
Yep.
I believe.
right. And the higher the compliance, the better results we'll get. So,
Absolutely.
all right, so let's,
yeah, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna think about this as if this was our business, and then
Yes.
we'll hand it over to operations to take it apart
okay,
Yeah.
with nothing personal,
Right,
right?
right,
Just-
absolutely.
good. So if we can move on, Becca might have a few things to say about today's recyclable conference, right? Recycling conference.
Well, I was all geared up and very positive until I came to this meeting and hear all the things that we can do. But I think it's great to gather the information, to educate ourselves what we can do, and possibly thinking out of the box about eliminating some of these. We can't solve plastic, but we can stop using as much as we might.
Mhm.
Try limiting the number of plastic things that we buy. One of the groups talked about they had a challenge for Earth Day, and they had some green shopping initiative where they did a workshop on how to shop green. And I would love to find out more information about that. A lot of their talk was just removing a lot of the waste out of our stream, a lot of the weight
Mhm.
by what we've already talked about, the cardboard and the glass. And I was impressed with the NRRA website. They did a little tour of the website, and there are a lot of resources on there that we could use as far as flyers for educating. So that, I think that was very helpful.
Okay,
The education and the professional, the group I thought that presented today were enthusiastic. They also had a lot of experience, and they had education in all these areas. So I think the NRRA is a great resource for us, and we should use it as much as we can.
okay. We'll do that. Privilege of the floor, anyone? Any comments, questions? Okay, you do? Yes, Sean? Unmute.
I don't want to drop this conversation about the, and again, it's not an immediate thing. It might be part of this 2-year plan, but the shed that's at the end of the row of dumpsters. I'd like to keep talking about that. My vision for that, and this comes down to whether we end up with more space or not, or available space or not, obviously. I envision a larger shed than that, significantly larger shed than that, that people can bring furniture and lamps and electronics and artwork and some of the things like skis and ski boots and some of the things that I see people drop in there, I'd love to see that stuff stay in a building longer so that more people have the opportunity to see something that they would like to take out of there. So, somebody drops off a pair of skis, still serviceable. Somebody else comes in and says, oh, these are better than my skis, or I don't have skis, and they can take those skis. And then once we have a bigger facility to hold more of that kind of stuff, a different approach to emptying it out. I get the feeling that right now it gets emptied with some frequency, and just like everything that's in there just gets taken out and put in the dumpster. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the way that it currently
No,
works.
actually, whatever is put down, well, it is sorted. And if it is something that we recycle, like scrap metal or tires or whatever, it gets put in the appropriate pile up above. But the majority of that stuff, I'd say probably 75, 80% of it is put in the construction debris dumpster, or it's put in the truck.
Right.
The other thing, Sean, that's pretty amazing is, I mean, I've had friends call me and say there's a great butcher block table there. Or, I mean, the amount of times that I pull in there, and now that everyone's talked about, oh, they're dumping trash at our house, at our place, I see more trash leaving Waterville out of that building than I see getting dropped. It's really, there's some real characters that come and pick through that.
We can call it the Waterville Flea Market. I'll put a flyer in all the hotel rooms. Stop at the building on your way out. See if you can find something to bring home.
Well, it's called the
They
Thornton Wall.
discussed,
Thornton Wall.
yeah, and they discussed those today at the end of the presentation. They call them a swap shop.
Swap shop.
And during COVID, a lot of those have been closed because they're small areas and they can't circulate air. But that's it. They separate those things out that can be traded. Heck, at Noon Peak, that's where I got my first pair of downhill skis, was at the dumpster enclosure. Because, the season, at the end of the season, somebody's moving, you just take a look at the dumpster enclosure. So,
But we should also advertise
nice
Habitat
to read.
Restore,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that is that's an incredible resource.
Restore.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, that place.
And Restore kind of tied into this building idea. And before it gets purged, I think ultimately in my vision, it never gets fully purged. Maybe somebody goes in there and says, all right, that's been there forever, or that's not something anybody's going to take. I know that's kind of an administrative headache to think about it that way, and that might not be operationally sound. But the other thing you could do is, I know that we got rid of a whole stack of stuff here, and Restore actually came out here with their truck and loaded it all up. So we might be able to make a deal with Restore where once a month or once a quarter or with some frequency, they come out to the swap shop and they just load up everything they want, and they're hauling a whole bunch of it right out of the community for us, and they're selling it in their stores or whatever.
Okay, great idea. I'll
That's
put
a
it
great
on the
idea.
wish list for 2023.
Yes.
All right. So I'm looking at the time. It's 5:35. Are there any last minute comments? I kind of wanted to show you guys, screen share and show you big belly pictures, but it's not urgent. So I will leave it for the next time. So if you get your calendars, we can schedule something for next time.
I'll just show you mine for now. That'll have to do for the week.
So,
Sorry, Sean.
Put it in your countdown where we're at 24 hours until town meeting. So make sure you're at the ice arena 24 hours from now.
5:30.
5:30 tomorrow. Make sure
Yeah.
you checked in.
Right, and don't forget to mention,
Last form.
don't forget to mention Anna Skilling's Treks for the School program. Or you'll show the picture or the email, right?
I will have a picture of it if somebody wants to say something, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
So the Solid Waste Committee is meeting June 1. When would you guys like to meet? There's no urgency.
Second week of June.
Second week, okay.
Actually, that's really soon. So maybe towards the end of June. 20th or somewhere around there.
There are 5 weeks in June, so. How about the 22nd of June? That's a Tuesday. Is that a conflict with something, Mark?
no,
Okay,
Sounds
20,
good. 4 o'clock.
yes. Okay, so I'll write up my notes. I'll write up my notes, share them with you, and we can adjourn. Thank you for your time.
okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take
Eric.
care.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.